the man with no words. The city was just waking up. New York's skyline shimmered under a soft gray morning light as the cold wind whistled down the empty streets. Arthur Rivers, a 52-year-old bus driver, had been driving Route 23 for nearly 2 decades. His passengers were usually the same: tired office workers, students with headphones, grumpy old men reading newspapers. But today was different. At the Jefferson Street stop, a man stepped onto the bus. He was tall, wore a long brown coat, a black hat pulled low over his eyes, and carried a scuffed, black leather suitcase. He didn't speak, didn't ask for directions, didn't even glance around. He simply sat down behind Arthur and placed the suitcase between his feet. Arthur glanced at him in the mirror. Something felt off. There was a stillness to the man. A tension, like he was waiting, but for what? The disappearance. By the time the bus reached the final stop on 7th Avenue, a quiet industrial area, Arthur turned back to check on his passengers. But the man was gone. No one had seen him leave. The suitcase, however, was still there, sitting upright, undisturbed. Arthur hesitated. Company policy was to report unclaimed items. But something about the suitcase made him uneasy. He lifted it, surprisingly heavy, and placed it beside him in the driver's seat. He told himself he would hand it in at the depot, but curiosity tugged at his thoughts like a child pulling at a coat sleeve. That night, after finishing his shift, Arthur brought the suitcase home. The seal. Arthur placed the suitcase on his kitchen table. It had an old-fashioned latch, but no lock. He opened it slowly. What he saw inside chilled him to the bone. There was no clothing, no wallet, no ID. Instead, the suitcase contained an ancient leather-bound book written in an unrecognizable script, a crumbling map with markings and coordinates, a metallic lion statuette that felt cold, even near the heater, and a sealed letter, its wax imprinted with a strange symbol, a lion biting its own tail. The letter had one warning scrawled on the outside in red ink: "Do not open, unless you are ready to lose everything." Arthur stared at the letter. Then, slowly, he broke the seal. The letter's message. Inside the letter, written in elegant script, was a message. For the bearer of this case, you have found what many have died seeking. The first of the 3 seals now belongs to you. This world is built on illusions, time, memory, truth, all of it bendable. 3 seals were crafted long ago to protect the balance. One opens time, one opens the mind, one opens fate. The lion you hold is the guardian of the first seal. But beware, you are not the only one searching. They will come, and when they do, run. Arthur reread the letter several times. The words seemed absurd, like something from a fantasy novel. But when he held the lion figurine again, it suddenly glowed faintly in his hand and burned ice cold into his skin. That night, Arthur didn't sleep. The shadow men. By the 3rd day, the strange occurrences began. His phone would ring in the middle of the night, but no one would answer. A black SUV was parked across the street, its windows tinted, engine running, never moving. One evening, while walking his dog near an alleyway, 2 men in dark suits approached him. "Mr. Rivers," one of them said with a chilling calmness, "we believe you have something that doesn't belong to you." Arthur stood his ground. "I returned the suitcase. It's gone." The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. "We both know that's not true." They didn't threaten him. They didn't need to. Their presence alone was a warning. The granddaughter. Arthur's only family was his 9-year-old granddaughter, Julia. Her parents had died in a car accident years ago. Julia lived with Arthur and was his entire world. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, Julia didn't come home from school. Arthur called the school. She'd left on time. He called neighbors. No one had seen her. Then came the text message. "The lion for the girl. You have 24 hours. Arthur's heart shattered. It wasn't just about the suitcase anymore. It was personal, and he wasn't going to run. The map. Determined to find answers, Arthur examined the map inside the suitcase. The markings led to a place underneath the city, a forgotten subway tunnel beneath Grand Central Station. He gathered a flashlight, a backpack, and a lion figurine. He descended into the dark maze beneath the city, following the map's path. The deeper he went, the more he felt time shift around him, like the air itself had memories. At the end of the tunnel, he found a door. It had no handle, no lock, only a circular indentation the exact size of the lion figurine. With trembling hands, Arthur pressed the lion into the slot. The door opened. The vault of time. Inside was a vast underground chamber lit by glowing crystals embedded in the walls. The air buzzed with electricity and whispers, not voices but memories. On a pedestal in the center of the room lay a second object, a glass orb spinning slowly in place. Arthur approached it, but the lion figurine pulsed in his pocket. He pulled it out, and it suddenly flew from his hand, attaching itself to the orb. A blinding light filled the chamber. When it faded, the orb split open, revealing a second seal, a silver ring with strange carvings. Then, footsteps echoed behind him. The agents. Arthur turned to see the two suited men from earlier. But this time they were armed. "Mr. Rivers, we told you not to get involved," the lead one said coldly. Arthur stood between them and the seal. "You took my granddaughter. She's safe for now, but that ring doesn't belong to you." Arthur clenched his fists. "Then come and take it." A fight broke out. Surprisingly, Arthur held his own. The lion figurine seemed to glow in his pocket, giving him bursts of strength. He managed to grab the silver ring and flee into another passage. Behind him, one of the agents screamed, "You don't know what you've done." The voice in the mirror. Back home, Arthur locked the doors and checked every window. Julia was still missing, but he knew the next move was coming soon. As he sat in front of the mirror, holding the lion and the ring, the reflection shimmered. Suddenly, the mirror showed not his own face, but a woman's, ancient, wise, and powerful. "You've awakened the second seal," she said. "The third lies beyond the veil of fate. But be warned, not all who seek truth survive it." Arthur leaned closer. "Who are you?" "You, the keeper of the final gate. And your time is running OU. A second life." Arthur woke the next morning feeling like he hadn't slept, not because of nightmares, but because he couldn't remember falling asleep at all. The silver ring from the orb now sat tightly on his finger. He couldn't remove it. No matter how hard he pulled, twisted, or soaked it in soap, it wouldn't budge. That day, time behaved strangely. He poured coffee, blinked, and it was cold. He looked at the wall clock. It had stopped at exactly 3:17 a.m., the same time Julia had disappeared. When Arthur stepped outside, the world seemed slower. People moved like they were underwater. His thoughts, however, were lightning fast. He realized the ring was affecting his perception of time itself. But if he could control time, he could reverse it. He could bring Julia back, or destroy everything. The veil of fate. Arthur returned to the mirror where the strange woman had appeared. He demanded answers. She too. "Rened, time is only one key. Fate is another," she said. "You must choose. Save one, or save all. The third seal will test your S." "Owl." Arthur asked who S. He was. "My name was once Elora. I was the first keeper. Now I am Emery." She revealed the third seal was not an object, but a choice, one only unlocked when someone had lost everything. Arthur's trial was still to come. She gave him one clue. Follow the girl with the red umbrella. She remembers what others forget. The girl with the red umbrella. For 3 days, Arthur searched the city. Then, near Bryant Park, he saw her. A young girl in a tattered coat, holding a red umbrella, walking alone through pouring rain with no concern. Her eyes met his, and she nodded, as if she'd been waiting. "Mr. Rivers," she said, though he'd never met her. "They're watching, but not from here." She took him underground, to an abandoned library beneath the public archives. There, she opened a locked cabinet and pulled out a black journal, the same as the one in the suitcase. "This belonged to your brother," she whispered. Arthur froze. His brother had vanished 30 years ago. The missing brother. Inside the journal were entries written by his brother, Samuel Rivers. Entries that spoke of the 3 seals, of hidden chambers, of guardians and trials. Samuel had found the 3rd seal, but it had cost him his sanity. In the last entry, Samuel wrote, "If you're reading this, I failed. The seal of fate is not an item. It's a decision. One life for many. I couldn't choose. So the world chose for me. I'm still alive. But I'm no Lon. Gurmy. Arthur's heart pounded. Could his brother still be alive? And if so, where? The girl with the red umbrella said only one word. Veritas. The forgotten prison beneath the Statue of Liberty. Veritas Prison. Arthur made his way to Liberty Island under the cover of night. He found an old service entrance, sealed decades ago. Using the map's final page and the lion figurine, he opened a hidden passage under the statue's base. Down, beneath steel and stone, he found Veritas, a prison not built for criminals, but for those who knew too much. Inside cell number 17 sat a man, bearded, ragged, eyes glowing faintly silver. Samuel? Arthur whispered. His brother looked up and smiled faintly. You're late. Arthur fell to his knees. You're alive. Samuel shook his head. Not for long. The choice. Samuel explained that he had unlocked the third seal. The seal of fate, but never used it. He couldn't make the sacrifice. The world had begun unraveling from that moment. The suitcase chose you now, Samuel said, because you can do what I couldn't. Arthur protested. What is the choice? Samuel stood and pressed his forehead to the bars. Either save Julia or reset the fate of humanity. You can't do both. Arthur trembled. The ring on his hand pulsed like a heartbeat. The lion figurine began to glow in his pocket. Time was running out. Again. The return of the agents. Outside the prison, Arthur was ambushed. The two suited agents, now accompanied by a third, masked figure, surrounded him. We warned you, the masked one said. The seals were never meant to be reunited. They reached for the suitcase. But Arthur raised the silver ring and shouted, I choose neither. A shockwave exploded from the suitcase. Time bent around them, freezing the agents in place. Everything stopped except Arthur. And then a door appeared. Not on the wall, not on the floor, but in the sky. The door in the sky. Arthur stepped through the glowing door and found himself not in space, but in memory. He walked through echoes of the past. His childhood home, his wife's funeral, the day Julia was born. Each door he opened led him deeper into himself. Finally, he stood before a throne of light. Elora App. Art again. This is the final trial, she said. Will you change the world's fate, or will you restore one child? As future, Arthur fell to his knees. I can't choose. But the ring chose for him, glowing blue in his palm. The reset. Arthur awoke in his bed. Everything was normal. Julia ran into the room, laughing, hugging him. No suitcase. No lion figurine. He turned on the TV. The date was 10 years earlier. Before the suitcase. Before the kidnapping. Before anything. His memory remained, but the world had been reset. He realized then, the suitcase didn't just give him a choice. It gave him a second chance. The forgotten watcher. Far away, in the shadows of a forgotten place, the agents watched. He did it, one said. He used the seal. The masked figure removed his hood, revealing Elora. But this time she was crying. Every time we reset, she whispered, we lose another piece of what we were. And far beneath the earth, the suitcase locked itself once more, waiting for the next soul brave or foolish enough to open it. The second chance was just the beginning. The whispers returned. Arthur tried to ignore it. The world had reset. Julia was safe. He hadn't opened the suitcase in this version of reality. There were no agents, no lion figurine, no ring. But every night, as he slept, the whispers returned. They didn't come from outside. They came from inside his mind. Faint voices, like wind in a tunnel, saying his name over and over. One night, he awoke with a word burned into his mind. Codex. When he checked his closet, his breath caught. There was again the black suitcase, as if it had never left. Codex. Inside the suitcase was something new. The old book was gone. The map was missing. But now, there was a small mechanical device, a cube with turning gears, etched with runes and glowing faintly. When he touched it, it unfolded into a disc with strange symbols. On the center, Codex Viatorum, the Traveler's Codex, It pulsed in his hand and displayed a hologram. Hey, thick message. Reality is not stable. Each use of the seal fractures the weave. You have rewritten history, but it is unraveling. Seek the archivist. She remembers what? IME forgets. Arthur stared at the suitcase. It had returned, with a warning. The archivist. After weeks of searching online and following cryptic references in ancient forums, Arthur found name. Dr. Eliza Vorn, a historian expelled from academia for claiming time was not linear. She lived off-grid in the Catskill Mountains. Arthur drove through snow, forest, and silence to reach her. When she opened the door, she was already holding the cube. I told them not to send another one, she muttered. Arthur blinked. Another one? She nodded. The suitcase chooses people, but most don't last long. You, however, you've already rewritten the weave once. She turned and said flatly, come in, before they find you. Shattered realities. Eliza showed Arthur a series of temporal anomalies appearing all over the world. Rivers flowing backward, people seeing future events in dreams, entire cities forgetting their own names. All because someone you pulled on the wrong thread. The codex projected 3 spheres. Past, present, and unwritten. You've stepped into the third, the unwritten realm. That's where the final version of the truth lies. Arthur asked what that meant for Julia. Eliza frowned. If the timeline collapses, she won't just die. She'll never have existed. Arthur clenched his fists. Then we fix it. Tell me how. She looked at the suitcase. We find the others. The ones who survived the previous resets. The travelers. Eliza called them temporal travelers. People chosen by the suitcase in alternate realities, left with fragments of memory and powers they didn't understand. First was Kellen Duvray, a former military strategist, now living in a mental hospital in Ohio. He claimed to remember 10 different versions of Earth. In some, he was president. In others, a prisoner. Second was Mei Chun, a blind violinist in Taiwan who could see people's timelines through sound. Third was Jonas Pike, a man who hadn't aged in 80 years. Arthur and Eliza went to find them, but they weren't the only ones searching. The collectors were already one step ahead. The collectors wore black gloves and mirrored glasses. They didn't speak. They erased. When they entered a place, time twisted. Photographs faded. People forgot. Even walls seemed to warp. They weren't human, at least not anymore. They hunted the travelers to erase them, to maintain chronological purity. Arthur and Eliza reached Kellen just minutes before the collectors arrived. Kellen recognized Arthur instantly. You're the one who broke the loop, he said. I saw you in a dream. You were bleeding time. As the collectors broke into the facility, the 3 barely escaped. But the world was changing, and the suitcase was growing heavier. The forgotten clock. Mei Chun led them to an ancient temple deep in the mountains of Taiwan. Inside was a hidden chamber with a massive mechanical clock, its gears older than recorded history, its pendulum made of crystal. This clock, Mei whispered, measures forgotten time. She played her violin. The notes echoed through the walls and revealed hidden doors, inscriptions, moving shadows. The codex began to glow, and one of the gears shifted for the first time in 1,000 years. A hidden drawer opened. Inside was another ring, black obsidian with no markings. The second seal of fate, Jonas Pike's truth. Jonas Pike lived in a lighthouse on the Arctic coast. Alone, surrounded by ice and memory. He welcomed them with silence. Only when he saw the ring did he speak. I once wore it, he said. I took it off, but it never left. Jonas revealed he had used the seal, not to save anyone, but to erase a war. An entire conflict vanished, but so did everything connected to it. Cities, books, people. I killed 3 million by saving 5 billion. Arthur stared at him. Did you regret it? Jonas looked out at the sea. Every day. And I'd do it again. Julia's disappearance. Again. Back in New York, Arthur found his apartment ransacked. Julia gone. On the wall, a message writ. In silver dust. You made a choice. No, We make one. Arthur collapsed. He had fought so hard, traveled so far, met others like him, found seals, maps, truths. But once again, the world had taken Julia. Except this time, she wasn't kidnapped. She was erased. No school records. No birth certificate. Her room was empty. Photographs showed only Arthur alone. Only one thing remained. Her red umbrella. The final signal. The red umbrella glowed faintly in the dark. The codex hovered above it, turning. Then, for the first time, the codex spoke. Final convergence in 72 hours. Anchor compromised. Seal. Breach imminent. Arthur turned to Eliza. What does that mean? It means the final door is about to open, whether we're ready or not. Kellen, May, and Jonas gathered. Each had carried a piece of the truth. Together, they placed their seals into the codex. It opened into a blinding white tunnel, a place between timelines, a place known only as the Nexus, the end of one timeline, the beginning of another. The Nexus. The Nexus was not a place. It was a moment, a glowing corridor of suspended memories, all flickering like mirrors, timelines collapsing, shifting, rebooting. Some showed Arthur's past, others showed futures that never happened. One showed Julia as an old woman. Another showed her, never born. The codex floated ahead, leading Arthur, Eliza, May, Jonas, and Kellen through the corridor. Each step forward felt like years passing in reverse. Suddenly, a massive door appeared, made of shifting light and obsidian metal. On it was carved a phrase in an ancient tongue, but Arthur understood it perfectly. Only the broken may enter. The gatekeeper. As they approached, a figure stepped from the shadows. He wore the same black coat as the man who originally left the suitcase on Arthur's bus, except now, his face was visible. And to stop chasing it. The new traveler. One rainy night in a distant city, a young woman named Isla Monroe boarded a late-night bus. She was a teacher, tired, recently heartbroken. She sat behind the driver. On the seat next to her, she noticed something strange, a black suitcase. No one claimed it. No one seemed to see it but her. It had no tag, no lock. Only one word burned into its leather. Remember. She touched it. The air shifted, and far away, deep in the loom of fates, Arthur Rivers smiled. The last thread. In the loom room, where time is written and unstitched, one last thread glowed golden. It bore Arthur's name, but it no longer wove the world. He had passed on the burden. Yet, as it floated in the eternal W, Eva Wiss, her was etched beside it. A bus driver who loved too deeply. A brother who remembered too much. A father W.H. I'll never gaff. Yup, a weaver of mercy. And somewhere across all timelines, Julia Rivers, in one life or another, smiled into the sun, not knowing why, but feeling, somehow, she had been loved through eternity. The end.